Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
There has been a recent development regarding a fight from the back end of last year, and that former Ben Whittaker and Liam Cameron did an interview with October Red, and off the back of that, Frank Warren has put out a statement. What's your reaction to that statement from Frank Warren?
Slightly over the top as usual. What I can't get my head round, I was asked to make an offer by the manager, assuring that he'd get it done, said that the money wasn't enough, and then asked me to make another offer and said what he wanted, and then we made that offer. And then suddenly that wasn't enough, and it's just like, we're not the ones playing games. We communicated last year that Ben will be back in April and will be headlining the Midlands, and we'd love to do that fight. But we feel like we've given them what they wanted, but I'm confused by the situation.
The year's just started. We're not even halfway through January. And Ben Shalom is already doing damage control, trying to defend his fighters for not doing what they're supposed to do. Now, is Frank Warren playing games with the negotiation? More than likely, but here's the thing. Frank is the established promoter, and right now, Frank is looked upon as the guy who can't do nothing wrong. Ben Shalom is the promoter really trying to establish himself and prove himself. The industry are saying, well, I don't know if we say the industry, the fans are saying he might not hold on to his current contract at Sky. Frank Warren has the guy who made Ben Shalom's guy lose face in front of the media, in front of the boxing fans. There is a rebuilding job to do with Ben Whittaker. He come out as a showboater, talking a bit of shit. Talented fighter indeed, Olympic silver medalist. Now he barely speaks to the press after the technical draw with Liam Cameron. And don't get me wrong, Frank Warren has a building job to do with Liam Cameron, but it's a position that most promoters would envy to have because it came from nothing. It's not like he had a whole load of expectation on him when he turned pro to do X, Y, Z. He didn't have that. He didn't get signed to Frank until after the technical draw with Ben Whittaker. So whatever Frank can do with Liam, if he wins a British, Commonwealth, Euro, maybe world title, will just be a very welcome addition. Whereas if Ben Shalom cannot turn this kid into a world champion, current climate where they're talking about fast tracking the top amateurs, it's a massive failure. You know, and it's not down to Ben Shalom alone, right? Because Sky are really leaving him out on the battlefield exposed. If you don't have the talent or the roster or the fight dates, then you've got to lower the expectations for Ben Shalom. You have to, yeah? You can't have Ben talking up his fighters like they're world beaters, and when it comes to negotiations, a lot of fights are not getting made. Liam Cameron was an underdog against Ben Whittaker. He wasn't supposed to get a technical draw or technical nothing. He was an underdog. Ben Whittaker's stock has dropped, but Ben Shalom is still trying to sell him more as an A-side type fighter, a big star, rather than someone who's got to prove himself after the last fight. Now, do I think Ben Whittaker allowed himself to be flipped over the rope so he could get DQ'd? No, I don't believe that bollocks. But it wasn't a good performance. Ben Shalom needs to make a fight with Liam Cameron as easy as possible to make. The less obstacles you leave in the way, the better. Even if it means sending him across the street to Queensbury. Because the longer this looms over Ben Whittaker, and let's take into account the radio silence, what is it, 2 interviews or something, or maybe a couple of social media bits and pieces he's done since the fight, it's just going to damage his confidence. That's all it's going to do. And look, Ben Shalom pushed Frank Warren out the way when Eubank was getting weighed in on the Bivol Beterbiev card. And that didn't go down too well with Frank Warren, right? That didn't go down too well. Ben was a little insecure and he felt that he wasn't getting the shine and Frank standing next to his fighters and he should be there. And it was a dumb move, you know what I mean? It was a dumb move. And we know what Frank Warren is like, yeah? There might be a chance that Frank Warren and Liam Cameron don't want to take this fight right now, at this moment. Unless they can get Ben Shalom to cough up enough peas, right? If Ben Whittaker evaporates Liam Cameron in the rematch, then we're going to be like, what was all the fuss about Liam Cameron? Now his name has been established. He does have a little something to lose now. He went into the fight not having nothing to lose, but now, not so much. They're going to be strategic about this. The real pressure is on Ben Whittaker and Ben Shalom to produce. When Ben Whittaker is back in the ring, if the opponent is not Liam Cameron, they're going to be scrutinizing that opponent very heavily. Even if Ben Whittaker looks good, if the opponent is not what the media will deem satisfactory, if it's not Liam Cameron, Ben Whittaker's stock will plummet even further. That's the truth. Liam Cameron used to be a camera-shy guy, and all of a sudden he found his voice.
You have to get a knockout to win.
I don't know.
For some people, will say that he tried to find a way out.
Well, he quit once, so what does the famous Brendan Ingalls say from Sheffield? Once a quitter, always a quitter.
Liam, it's been a pleasure. I'll leave the final word with you. I've got a message for Ben Whittaker. Hopefully we get to see the rematch this year.
I've got a message for Ben Shalom. Let the fight happen. Give me the payday and Ben Whittaker the payday.
They don't necessarily need to take the Ben Whittaker fight. This is what Ben Shalom isn't factoring in. They don't need to take it. They've made a lot of headlines of what's happened already. This is the clout chasing generation. And it's something that is a fair game tactic. I don't like it, but it's a fair game tactic with the event of social media where you don't have to wait for Fleet Street or television or radio to get your point across. It was way more difficult pre-social media to do the clout chasing thing. Yeah, they're going to try and live off the Ben Whittaker fight from 2024 as long as possible. And while Ben Whittaker is not very popular amongst fans and media, they're going to pull it off. So Frank, unless they put up the peas on a whole load of them, he might make the negotiation very difficult and be like, we're in the driving seat. It's you with the Golden Boy who's got something to prove. If you want it, pay for it.
If a man wants to make him pay down funny.
Now, I'm just speculating here. I don't know if Frank or Ben is telling the truth. I haven't got a clue. Liam Cameron said, "Hi at Ben Shalom. My promoter, Uncle Frank, has offered me 50% more than you." 50%? I doubt that very much. 50% more than you have offered me. And he has also offered at Ben Whittaker a huge offer. Also, he's shown me all the emails, unlike others. I don't know, man. All this clout chasing and online negotiation in modern day boxing, I'm not a fan.
It's up to them. We've tried. If we did half the things that they did, we'd be receiving legal letters. I know through third parties they've been offered fights and they've been offered even 5v5s and they've just turned it down. You know what I mean? So they've got that problem and it's not us, and it's quite clear that they've got that problem, which is fine. But this is just a bit over the top.
I tell you what, the beef used to be Ben Shalom and Eddie Hearn. Now I hear they get on pretty well. And if I was Ben, I would keep it very amicable with Eddie Hearn right now. I think at first, and we all know Simon Jordan has a piece of boxer. At first, he was saying, make sure you stay good with Frank Warren. But I don't think that's the case right now. Because say what you want about Eddie Hearn, he's not as vindictive as Frank Warren. He is not. And you shoving Frank out the way and didn't apologize? Yeah, I think Frank is trying to bully this kid a little right now. I think he's trying to bully him. When he was beefing with Eddie Hearn, Eddie was still trying to make fights. You beef with Frank Warren, I'm not saying Frank won't make the fights, but if he gets the chance to bully Ben a little, he'll take it. He's old school. He was bullied by Mickey Duff and the cartel and the British Boxing Board of Control. So he's got no problems bullying Ben Shalom. It is what it is. Frank, very vindictive man. It is what it is. Always has been. When Chris went off at the Baturbia Bivol press conference calling the promoters scumbags, it's not like he attacked Frank alone. He went at Eddie, he went at the Sowlands, but none of them followed through with lawsuits. Except Frank. I'm predicting that Ben Whittaker versus Liam Cameron doesn't happen unless the Saudis step in.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
One thing I will say, it's a new year. I guess a fresh start for many, hopefully in terms of relationships. Can we mention Dalton Smith? I know it was kind of a big part between the both of them last year. You interviewed Dalton, you mentioned AZIM. If you mentioned Dalton, I know it's a fight we want to see, but do we kind of leave the talk for a minute? Because we had the talk last year and we didn't see the fight. So where do we stand with that in 2020?
It's getting closer. It's getting closer. It's not like we're on a timeline. Dalton's still young and Adam's extremely young. And I genuinely believe AZIM stops him. I genuinely believe him. Not just beat him. I think he beats him up and stops him. And they probably feel the same way. No one's seen them get close to reaching their level yet. But I think it's going to happen. I think it might happen in the next 12 months. But the most important thing is, like, we're not shying away from it. I know they're trying to say we are, but we're definitely not shying away. It just has to make the most financial sense.
And there's Shane using the same dry, let's try and build this into a 7-figure fight. Like, I didn't clip the whole of the interview. There was a stage where Shane said, this is an 8-figure fight, and then he had to climb off his high horse. You shouldn't have Ben Shalom or the trainers or the fighters of Ben Shalom constantly defending why they're not taking fights. It's not a good position to be in. How long is this going to continue? You know, someone asked Dalton Smith about it recently. He says, I don't even talk about that guy no more. And he shouldn't talk about that guy no more. 2025, and Boxer is still trying to clear up the fallout from Dalton Smith, Adam Azim, when Eddie Hearn was bullying Ben Shalom all over the place with the Fabio Fraser Clark fight, the Jaya Patar Richard Riakporhe fight, the Beatrice Vieira Caroline Dubois fight, etc., etc. Now he's got Frank Warren on his back. You know, and then you're going to try and hype up the Sergei Lipinets fight. It's not a bad fight, but let's keep it real. He's 35 years of age, 5 fights since 2019, 1 fight a year type deal. He did win his last fight against Robbie Davis on one of them pro box shows. Sergei's won 2 out of his last 5 since 2019. One of them was a loss to Boots Ennis by stoppage. He's not going to beat Adam Azim. Just like O'Hara Davis wasn't going to beat Adam Azim. You know, they should have at least made that fight they promised to make last year against Harlem Eubank. Fight someone active, younger, fresher, and let's see what he can do. He's supposed to beat Harlem Eubank and them guys there if he's as good as Sky and Ben Shalom have been talking him up. Wembley Arena, 1st of February. Lipinets, 35 years of age. He's 18-3-1 with 13 inside the distance. Adam Azim, 12-0, 9 inside the distance, 22 years of age. And he's going to breeze through Lipinets. He's going to breeze through him. It's not the worst fight, though. It's not the worst. But let's not talk it up like it's as big as a Dalton Smith fight. Let's not even go there. I'm sure there'll be more fights to be confirmed on the card. You've got Vidal O'Reilly versus Isaac Chamberlain for the British Cruiserweight title. I don't think Isaac is washed. The last time I saw him fight, he lost to Jack Massey on the undercard of Billy Smith versus Riakporhe at Crystal Palace. But I think Vidal O'Reilly will outpoint Isaac. And at 12-0, could be just a little fresher and just have a few too many moves for Isaac. Isaac's not a bad boxer, but I think it might be Vidal's time. But I'm looking forward to that fight. I think it will be competitive.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
Moses Itauma was made the mandatory contender for David Adelaye's English heavyweight title. I was informed by Everything Boxing on Twitter that they are both withdrawn from the ordered mandatory contests. Obviously, they're both promoted by Frank Warren. Adeleye, I'm assuming, will have to vacate the title, surely, if he doesn't adhere to the mandatory. I don't know what the British Boxing Board of Control's line will be on that. It's not really an important title to David Adeleye. He won it in grand style against Solomon Dakers, so it will probably go vacant. For the likes of Adeleye and Itauma, it's very much a building block belt. No disrespect to the belt, it's a very good belt, but it is what it is. A lot of people wanted to see that fight though. I was interested, and I guess that's the issue, like when you have so many heavyweights in-house like Frank Warren, the need to make a fight such as this is not a necessity. Itauma, he's got till April to beat Mike Tyson's record of being the youngest world heavyweight champion. I didn't believe he was going to beat it when they first announced it a while back, and I don't believe nobody beats it while I'm still breathing. I don't believe so. Floyd Patterson won the world title in 1956, knocking out Archie Moore in 5 rounds. If he can beat that record, Floyd was 21 years, 10 months and 26 days old when he became the youngest to do it. If he can beat that and become the second, that's still a high milestone. Moses approximately has a year, 10 or 9 months to beat that. What's his chances? The whole thing is becoming a little gimmicky. It's time to concentrate on developing Moses to reach his full potential, and they're doing that. Moses has named his 4 potential opponents he would like to share the ring with in 2025. Got Justice Hooney, Kubrat Pulev, Filip Pogovic, Otto Wallin should he beat Chisora. What about Chisora? If he beats Otto Wallin, why wouldn't they go for that? And if they pick Pulev and he beats Pulev, let's not be talking about he beat anyone's record. It's not a proper world title. Looking at that list of opponents, he's going to be hard to match at this stage here because a lot of these guys, aside from the likes of Justice Hooney, who's still young and undefeated, they know they're being set up to be potential stepping stones for Moses Itauma. And you're going to have to pay for the privilege. You know what I mean? So a lot of them fights might require a Saudi bag.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
PBC are literally creaking at the knees to get fights past the line right now. So Errol Spence versus Sebastian Fundora is planned for March the 29th at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. The deal is not done, according to Dan Raphael, but they put this out there. Fundora seems like he's just going to wait around for Spence regardless if the fight happens or not. Spence hasn't been in the ring since July 2023 when he was destroyed by Terence Crawford. Fundora himself hasn't been in the ring since March of last year when he fought Tim Tszyu. Tim Tszyu was a bloodied up spectacle after their fight, and even he's returned to the ring sooner than Fundora. The WBO, we know they're not going to sanction Fundora's defense against Errol Spence, but the WBC belt is still on the line. The sanctioning bodies are wild though. I hear the WBO are not actually going to strip Fundora. So hold on, you're not going to sanction his defense because you don't think the opponent is appropriate, but you're going to allow him to keep the belt. The WBC have Errol Spence ranked at number 1, and he hasn't fought for nearly 2 years, and his last fight was a losing effort. It's crazy. But yo, until you see them throwing punches in the ring, it's all speculation. That's all we're dealing with the PBC.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
The WBO president Gustavo Oliveri said he's considering designating the February the 15th bout between Jack Catterall and Arnold Barboza to be a fight for the division's interim championship at 140. It was supposed to be an eliminator for Teo's belt, but they're saying Teo's inability to strike a deal with his promoter Top Rank for a March the 15th defense against Subriel Matias. The WBO want to keep the division alive and will empower the interim champion to seek a title shot in victory. Now they're saying because they're not sure if Teo's going to move up in weight or he's going to be in a legal battle with Top Rank, to keep the division moving, they're considering to make Barboza Catterall for the interim title, with the winner ordered to fight Teofimo next. If Teo were to dispute this decision, he'd be stripped of his belt, with the Barboza Catterall winner becoming full champion. Olivieri has said he has not made a final determination because it requires the approval of the WBO board. He's saying that, but obviously they've got his backing or he wouldn't have went public with a statement. Teo is now 21 wins, 1 loss, 13 inside the distance, 27 years of age. He's still very young, 2-weight champion. His last performance against Claggett didn't set the world alight. Claggett had several losses, and Teo looks like he's regressing a little. So Barboza and Catterall will be in Manchester, England, 15th of February on a Matchroom card. I'm guessing the fight could be elevated to a championship bout of sorts, but it's still an interim title. So what difference does it really make if it's an eliminator or for an interim belt? You know, either way, they won't be a full champion when the final bell rings. They're still going to need a lot of circumstances to play out before you can title the winner a full champion. Arnold Barboza, 33 years of age, is 31-0, 11 inside the distance. Jack Catterall, 30 wins, 1 loss, 31 years of age with 13 wins inside the distance. After watching Barboza's last 2 fights against Sean McComb and Jose Ramirez, if Catterall is unable to win that fight, I'll be shocked. Barboza said he'll be happy if the WBO elevate the status of the fight to an interim title. That's how it should be. He cited that Teofimo took on a lot of other guys like Claggett with 7 losses. He said that himself and Jack should get the opportunity to get the title. And I suppose he's right, the winner will be interim champion, and if Teo don't want to take a crack at the winner, they'll give him about 2 or 3 months to take the fight, and if not, they'll be elevated champion. So it's a good situation. It's not as bad as I was saying. I just don't like all them interim and regular titles. They're basically stripping Teo without saying they're stripping Teo. They've had enough of him. I think Top Rank and a lot of people have had enough of Teo right now. Eddie Hearn and Matchroom will be anxious to get a British world champion on the books. Haven't had one since Sonny Edwards. And then they can make that unification between Jack and Richardson Hitchens. I like that.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.